Hello, and welcome to Break Check Rocket League Esports Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the European Regional #1 for the winter split. So let's just jump right into it. First off, we're going to start with closed quals. So we'll look at that for a moment, see how that shook out, and then we'll glance over at the main bracket. So let's look at this. I think this is closed qualifier. It's quite interesting over in Europe. So the first thing that I think is important is this T team. And if you guys are not caught up, this team is Tox, Exo, and Atomic, which is where they got the name T. And this team actually got picked up by Luminosity Gaming. All right, so later on when we look at this in the main bracket, it's probably going to be the Luminosity Gaming logo. But we look at this, and they had a great run here. 3-0. They take down Stormtroopers, Navi, and Queso. It's a very high-quality win, as we all know, looking in hindsight. But all three of these teams are very, very solid teams. So great run here from T throughout the close qual. Williams Resolve. This is a team that I want everybody to put a pin in this team and keep them on the front of your mind. All right, this is a team that they just don't get much attention. There's not a lot of discussion about them. I think they are kind of in this new generation of professional players. They're not these legacy names that have been around forever, but they are a very, very good team. They've had pretty consistent results around that 7 to 12 area in Europe, and I think they are making strides towards a higher rank, if I'm being honest. So we look at this run, and they beat 3 quality teams as well. They beat Singularity, who qualified, Heroics, who has qualified many times, and 00 Nation, who qualified and has qualified plenty of times in the past. So those are our two teams that go through 3-0, no losses. Great run here. Then we got 00 Nation, Team Singularity, and Rick's GG. Those are the 3 teams that come in to the main bracket with a 3-1 performance. Some pretty solid wins here as well. The thing that I want to note here is Singularity, this is their first appearance, and Rick's GG. This is their first appearance in the main event. I know these two teams were really excited to play, and so that's awesome for these two teams. The last 3 that we have qualifying here at the end is Cookser's Minions, Navi, and Queso. All right. Now, later on, we're going to talk about this team quite a bit. But look at this. Team Queso is the last team to qualify to the event. Now, I understand that all 3 of these teams qualify in the same 5th round of the Swiss. But if we look at game differential and whatever else, Team Queso is actually they're dead last as far as the team to qualify. So, again, keep that in mind. We'll talk about this a little bit more later, but this is incredible. Now, I do want to mention some of these other teams that didn't qualify because this is going to come back to my point later on. We see I've got a topic here of EU depth, and I want to talk about some of these teams. Triple Trouble, Heroic, Guild, Stormtroopers, Savage, Pepepitos, Canyons, SK, and I don't know as much about Mamt, but all these teams right here these are high-level teams, y'all. These are teams that I think, I've said this a few times, but I think if some of these rosters were North American rosters, they would probably find themselves in the main events more frequently, maybe even in most of the events. So SK is a new pickup. You know, they had their team last split, and it didn't work out. They picked up a team of Fruity, Econ, and Carrion. I may be saying that wrong. I apologize if I am. Some people were a little bit skeptical or hesitant to be excited about this roster, and I do understand that. I don't know how competitive they're going to be, but I am always excited to see orgs pick up players. It's a good sign for the health of the esport, in my opinion. We got Pepepitos Canyon, and this is Zamway, Demensa, and Tecos. Again, I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong. This is a good team. Zamway and Demensa have RLCS experience, and I think Tecos is a pretty high-level player, a pretty talented player, up-and-coming player. So adding him to this roster is nice. We got Stormtroopers, Dead Monster, Ocelon, and Tho, all RLCS experience. Like I said, I'm not as familiar with this Mamt team. Let's look here. Savage, Bluey, RLCS experience. Compact and Davoof. I don't know as much about these players, but I do recognize the names, and I think that they have been pretty high-level bubble players for quite some time at this point. Triple Trouble, Ronicky, VK Salen, and Dorito, all RLCS experience. So, look, I'm telling you, Europe is just full of talent, loaded with talent. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So let's go ahead and move on to the group stage here, and let's look at some of this and how this unfolded. So the first thing we can look at is what the groups were. Group A, BDS. This is Luminosity, which is that T team that I told you about earlier. Tox, EXO, Atomic, Singularity, 00 Nation. We had Queso, Misfits, Dig, and Rix in Group B. Group C is Williams, EG, Semper, and Cookser's Minions. Then Group D, Endpoint, Carmine Corp, Team Vitality, and Na'Vi. We'll just start off with Group A. BDS is what everybody expected, 3-0. I think there were people that thought Luminosity may steal this game from BDS or maybe end up on top of the bracket, but this is pretty much what everyone expected. I had predicted Singularity to be the team that got bounced out of groups. We had a few people that were saying that Singularity looks pretty good lately, and we're kind of vouching for them, saying that they are probably going to perform pretty well. So good for Team Singularity to, like I said, first time qualifying into the main event and already having a couple good results here. So that's good for them. Queso, Misfits, Dig, and Rix. This definitely was not what everyone expected. This is a pretty stacked group here. I think people probably anticipated Dignitas coming out on top, myself included. And then Queso, Misfits, kind of a toss-up in that 2-3 spot, and then Rix at the bottom. Queso, wow. Wow. We'll talk about it more as we go. Queso with a 3-0. They take Misfits down in Game 5. They take Dig down in Game 4. And then they 3-0 sweep Rix, GG. Queso and Dig have seemingly gone back and forth throughout this RLCS 21-22 season. So this is not terribly surprising, but in hindsight, now that we know the results, Queso, holy moly, what a performance. Group C, Williams. And this is kind of what I was talking about a little bit earlier when I mentioned this team. And I want to say this too. I am one of these people that is not giving this team the nod very often. And they are slowly just proving people wrong time and time again. And so before long, they're going to be a team that people are talking about and kind of vouching for. And I'm interested to see, are they going to be able to continue to replicate those results when they are no longer the underdog? I think that's something that's important. And if you hang around the stream, you know I talk about the mental dynamic all the time. It's different when no one is vouching for you, when no one is voting for you, and everyone thinks you're going to get beat. It's a very different world than when you are kind of the top dog and everyone's picking to win. So anyways, team to watch out. Definitely a team to watch. Williams Resolve. They come out on top of the bracket. 2-1, 2-1, 2-1 with Evil Geniuses and Semper. And there's kind of a tiebreaker. There's kind of a tiebreaker when there's 3 teams to eliminate the third. And that was Semper that got eliminated. And then Williams and Evil Geniuses had a tiebreaker match in which Williams Resolve came out on top in Game 5. Cookser's Minions, unfortunately, couldn't get a win, so they bounce out 0-3. And then we got Group D, Endpoint, Carmine Corp, Vitality, and Na'Vi. Now, this one is probably the one that I think unfolded in the most predictable manner. But I have to say, this is terribly unfortunate for Na'Vi. Look, they have an FF here, and this is because Virtuoso's internet absolutely just was shot on the day of the event. I mean, he couldn't even play the game, and unfortunately, they don't have a sub. So Na'Vi, I feel so terrible for them. I hope that they bounce back strong and they don't let this affect their mental. Hopefully they use it as motivation and kind of a fuel to perform better and get back as this main event and prove that they are a team that belongs. So that was our group stage. Before I dive into this playoff bracket, I want to talk a little bit about EU depth. And I think the best thing to do when looking at this is probably going to be to pull up rankings and just look at all of the different teams as we scroll through Europe. So obviously we have some of these top level teams that everyone is excited about, everyone is talking about, and no one is surprised when they perform well. BDS, Dig, Endpoint. They are your typical regional winners. They are the teams that performed well at the major, and these are the teams that everyone expects them to do well. Then we have Semper and Vitality. And I would also toss Carmine Corp in this group as well. Queso just bounced to the top here with this regional win. But I want to talk about Semper, Vitality, K-Corp. These 3 teams they're all similar, though they are very different. Vitality is a team that had a ton of success, a lot of achievements, reputation to uphold, and they haven't really met those expectations. Carmine Corp was a relatively new team. And they were kind of that super team idea at the beginning of the season, and a lot of people had high expectations of them despite lack of previous results. But unfortunately, they haven't really lived up to those expectations. And Semper is a little bit of the opposite, where they're obviously a good team, and a lot of people were hoping they would do well, but no one really knew. And they have kind of exceeded expectations. So they're all kind of similar in that same spot of like not super impressive, but also right there in that 4 through 6 area. So those 3 teams are kind of in the same boat. I think Semper is definitely on top, especially with their performance at the major of that group, but they kind of remind me of one another in that area. And then we've got teams like Queso, Evil Geniuses, Misfits, Williams Resolve, and then right after them we have teams like Heroic, and I'm going to toss Luminosity Gaming in there too, even though they're kind of a new roster, and I actually expect Luminosity Gaming to jump up a few spots. But my point with this discussion is we look at this, and the thing is EG, Williams, Misfits, Luminosity, Heroic, these are all teams that nobody is expecting them to win regionals. Nobody is vouching for them to make major and stuff like that, right? But they regularly take games and series off of these teams up here. And that is what's missing in North America, right? That is what we don't really get. There are not many teams in that 10 through 15 spot that take games off of NRG or FaZe or Space Station or G2, right? We're missing that depth of competition. And the crazy thing about it is Europe actually goes way deeper. There's these teams down here, while they may not be taking games off of these top guys, these teams down here are very competitive. And there's rosters that we don't even see yet that we mentioned over there when we were in the closed quals. We don't even see them here. You know, this Savage team, Stormtroopers, Pepitos Canyon. You know, we're not even seeing those guys here in the points standing. And they are highly competitive rosters. So I just wanted to stop and talk about that for a moment because, again, Europe is just littered with talent. There is so many high-level players there. And I really think that what we're going to see over the next 6 to 12 months, especially at the end of the conclusion of the 21-22 season, we're going to see a pretty massive talent consolidation in Europe. And I think it's going to make for a very, very, very strong 1 through 16. Right now, we still kind of have some stuff spread out. We've got some star players, you know, sprinkled in throughout some of these bubble level teams at the moment. And I think we're going to see some consolidation, and Europe is, in all honesty, they're just going to get even stronger. So that's kind of a down the road prediction for the European region. But it's always fun to look at how Europe is and some of the talent that is on these rosters that are not even making it into main event. So let's glance over here at the playoff bracket and see how that shook out. So we've got lowers round 1, and this occurs on day 1. So we've got Misfits Gaming being taken out by Singularity in game 5. This is definitely a little bit of a surprise. Like I said, Singularity has not made it into a main event yet. In fact, there was actually a closed qualifier that they missed in the fall regional. So they have struggled a little bit. But Misfits they were in a position to qualify for the major. And they absolutely bombed out of the 3rd regional in the fall. And now we see them kind of having another lackluster performance in this first regional. They were a team that was definitely on the upward trend, and now I'm a little bit skeptical. And I hope that Misfits can turn it around. But this is a great result for Singularity, especially, like I said, in their first regional of this 21-22 season. EG versus Vitality. Vitality taking them out in game 5. That's great for Vitality. We want to see them continue to start to or continue to beat the teams that are in that 6 through 16 spot. But now we've got to see Vitality start to take down some of these 1 through 5. They have got to up that level of competition if they want to take the next step and get back to where we know Vitality can be. We've got LG versus Dig, and gosh, this is such a tough draw for Luminosity. Again, I think this team is going to perform well long term, but running into Dig, that's tough. And we look at this, and Dig made the entire run. You know, Dignitas is a great team, and Queso just knocked them out early from in the groups, which places them in this lowers. And so, tough draw for Luminosity, but not a terrible first event under this new org. Then we got K-Corp versus Semper. And this is kind of what I was alluding to with Vitality, and K-Corp's in that same discussion. K-Corp has got to start taking down some of these 1 through 5 if they want to elevate to that next level. I think they have kind of solidified themselves in that 6 through 8, maybe 6 through 9 spot in Europe. But if they want to elevate to that next level, they've got to start consistently beating these teams in the 1 through 5 spot. And so this is a great start. They take down Semper in 5. On the flip side of that token, Semper, this is a very, very rough start to this winter split. This is not good. They have kind of dug themselves a little bit of a hole here, and they're going to have some really good performances in Regional 2 and 3 if they want a chance at making that winter major. Then we got Vitality taking down Singularity 3-0, and Dig taking down Carmi Corp 3-0 as well in the lower round 2. So we got 2 sweeps there, and then we go on to lower quarterfinals. Same thing. Endpoint sweeping Vitality and Dig sweeping Resolve. So, this is what I was saying. If Vitality wants to elevate to that next level, at the very least, we're going to have to take some games. We cannot be getting swept by these teams. And the same is true for Resolve. I don't think Resolve has the stature that Vitality does, but I do think Resolve is getting closer to that level. Again, we're going to have to start at least taking some games off of these top 5 teams. We can't just get swept. This is not very promising. I guess I should have looked at the Ubbers first because that's what knocked them down. Queso and Resolve here go to game 7, and then BDS actually take Endpoint down 4-1. So I do want to make a quick note of this. Resolve has had one of the better results against this team, Queso. We look at what Queso did to the rest of these teams as they moved through this bracket. Resolve played them very well. So Resolve plays good here and then gets knocked out by Dig. And I will say, I imagine that there is a little bit of lingering frustration after you get knocked down in a game 7 like this. So that could have had a little bit of a mental impact on Resolve as they face Dig here. But I expect Williams to continue to perform and continue to improve. So I'm sure they will bounce back strong in this next regional. Then we got Dig, Endpoint. These 2 teams, I think, really, more than anything, it just depends on who's performing on the day. I do know that Relating Wave was sick and not at the boot camp, so I'm sure that had a little bit of an impact on things. But Dig gets the better of Endpoint here, 4-2. Then we got Dignitas taking, well, hold on, let me jump up to the upper bracket final. So we got BDS versus Queso, and Queso absolutely smack BDS, 4-0. I mean, this is just incredible. BDS coming off the major win and jumping into this Regional 1, especially through upper bracket and the 4-1 Endpoint. No one expected this. I know Queso was hot, but they qualify to the upper bracket through groups, and then in the first match they go to game 7 with Resolve, who is not a top 5 team, and then, like I said, Queso knocks Endpoint 4-1. People were not expecting this, and Queso just popped. Man, they looked so good. They absolutely. I mean, it was a domination. It was a domination by Queso. This did not look like the team BDS that we all know. And I think, being knocked to the lowers, especially in this 4-0 fashion, probably had some form, a little bit of an impact on the BDS performance. But Dig was also looking good. Like I said, we see this Dig run. They go 3-1, they go 3-0, they go 4-0, they go 4-2, and they go 4-0 BDS. Dig was getting hot, okay? And then we find Dig and Queso in the finals. And I guess I should mention, this 4-0 sweep from Dig is a perfect sweep, all right? If I pull up the stats right here, BDS did not score a single goal, all right? Just got to mention it. That's crazy. This is actually the first time this has happened in a best of 7, a perfect sweep where the other team does not score. And on top of that, it's BDS. I mean, the team that most people are touting as the best in the world at the moment. So Dignitas looking hot coming into this final. And I think, again, a lot of people were, even though Queso just did this, I think a lot of people were saying, look, hey, that's a hot Dig. Look at them. Boom, boom, boom. They're running through that lower bracket. They just 4-0 perfect sweep BDS. They're probably going to take Queso down this time. And Queso says, no. We are popping right now. We are feeling good. And, I do want to talk about this Queso roster for a moment because they're super fun to watch. They've got a very high level of mechanical ability across all 3 players. And they are not afraid to use those mechanics in many different situations. I think right now we're kind of used to seeing flip resets and, pre-jumps and stuff like that used in an offensive manner, in a striking manner. But we're seeing this team use it to just hold possession. I'm seeing this team use flip resets more frequently than I've seen, I think, most other teams at the professional level at the moment. And again, not just using it for outplays or scoring or striking attempts. They're using it on defense. They're using it for midfield challenges. They're using it for aerial 50-50s. They're crazy. And this Queso roster they've had some backing from people around the scene for quite some time. I actually can tell you, if you go back, I think it's one of the podcasts that I did in the past, I said this verbatim. I said there are a lot of people vouching for or gassing up this Queso team, and I don't know why. I said that. And the reason I didn't know why is because I wasn't watching. When you watch this team and you see how these three players play, it is very impressive. And it's more of a matter of time. It's more of a win, not an if type of thing, that they're going to be successful. So if they continue to play the way that they are, I think we are going to, like I said, we'll continue to see that team improve and potentially even make the major. So that's what we're going to look at right quick before we conclude things. We're going to look at the winter rankings for EU. So right now, you got the top dogs, Cheesy Boys, Queso. After Regional 1 with a victory, they are on top, all right? So we've got Queso with 351, Dig with 300, BDS with 260, Endpoint with 220, and Vitality with 190. We also have Resolve looking at 190. We got Carmine Corp right behind them at 160, along with Singularity at 160. Then we got Semper, EG, LG, and Misfits at 110. So these are all your teams that I would say at the moment are in the front running for that major top 5 major position. These are the teams that are within striking distance of getting that top 5 area. But I tell you, I think these 4 are probably going to be the teams that qualify. And then that 5th spot, it's up for grabs. I think it could be Williams. I think it could be K-Corp. It could be Vitality. It could be Semper. I think it could be EG, LG. I think it could be Misfits. I mean, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that it's even one of these lower points teams, but Europe, again, we talk about the depth, and we see it here with these points. We've got teams down here in this, 8, they finished top 8. Or maybe even top 12. I don't know what it is. Even these teams down here are within striking distance and definitely have, at the very least, they definitely have the capability of qualifying for that winter major for Europe. So, as always, Europe got a little bit of shakeup in it, got a little bit of unpredictability, but always entertaining, always fun to watch. And I'm excited to see how Regional 2 shakes out in the European region. So that's going to conclude it today for the Break Check Podcast. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll catch you next time. Peace.